Graham, we're on. We're doing something live. It's going to be a little crazy today, but so is the news coming out of Athens. You want to talk about it?
Yeah. So Tyke Smith, our prize new toy from the transfer portal, previously an All-American at West Virginia, who was a highly probable candidate to guard Justin Ross and some of these big Clemson wide receivers that Georgia is going to need to take care of, has a foot injury and is out 3 to 4 weeks and will be unavailable for the Clemson game. Ditto for Darnell Washington, our 6'7" tight end that we were all looking forward to see spear balls in the end zone, and that we just did a ton of content on last week when talking about how Georgia should attack Clemson. So, not feeling super happy or positive today, but
Definitely got the UGA nihilist feel to it.
yeah, this is kind of one of those like classic Georgia. When something's happening, it's a bad thing. I mean, you've got Arik, Darnell, and Tyke all with bad news in the last week. And when Arik went, left the team there, I think everyone was like, "Well, it's fine. We've got Darnell." Well, now we don't. So, yeah, I'm gonna go hurl myself off a bridge.
But before that, we've got like 50 plays to look at. So
yep.
can we?
So
We should be shouting out Roddy at EJSports.com and Seth, who were breaking this news that we just read right before we came online. So Lord knows when this actually goes live, but yeah, we've got a lot of good people covering that.
Well,
stuff
there's a lot of. I mean, Seth Emerson put some stuff out on Twitter. Yeah. Josh Pate just put something out 5 minutes ago. So I don't know who was first, and I don't want to get into all that. But to all the people that are out there reporting it, great job.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so Graham, while we're doing this, let's just see if I can pull up a graphic here. Yes, all right,
awesome.
So that worked. We got that going for us, and more. These are kind of more bad news with the Spirit. These with the Spirit of the day. These are a big shout out to SEC StatCat. I track his stuff, share his stuff. If you're not following him, please join the Patreon over there. It's a ton of info, especially for X's and O's guys. Graham and I both subscribe. So these are the sort of the plays that he charted that we didn't do well on. So
yeah.
Anything you want to chime in here before we start looking at some of these plays?
Well, I mean, I think the thing that stands out the most to me there is just like dagger and scissors, those top couple ones. Those got, those were only 3 plays each, but like with the wheel, post, and dig, that's 13 plays for 15.2 yards per pop. Like that's a big weakness and vulnerability. Like that's not just they hit us a couple times. That's like like we're really bad at that, and anybody that's going to play Georgia is going to try and run that if they're doing their homework.
And also, in fairness, there are the heck of a lot of plays that Georgia did really well on that we're not necessarily bringing up in this graphic. I mean, they were very on the staple of SEC running is a lot of inside and outside zones, and Georgia was right around sub 40% success rate in those with anywhere from 3 to 4 yards per play average on that. So we're looking at the half empty part of the defense right now. But it seems to me that some of these plays are the underneath plays where our linebackers get caught in coverage and stuff like that, which we all looked at a lot last year. But that, we'll show some of these plays.
And, play some clips. Georgia fans, this might bring up a little bit of PTSD for you, but this is basically everything last year that Georgia struggled with. So that's what we like to call a wheel route. You might have heard of that. Maybe you've talked to some Florida fans on the internet in the last 9 months. I don't know.
But yeah, the wheel route. It's our cross to bear, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Let's just keep these rolling. Let's just get it over with. No, you're good. Yeah. So here we have kind of another switch. So if you were paying close attention to that graphic, you saw a lot of switch variations on there, and switch variations are just what you kind of see there, where the inside guy is going to go outside and the outside receiver is going to come inside. Sometimes that outside guy is going to turn that into a post. Sometimes the inside guy, that's going to be a wheel route, or maybe he's going to stop and do a comeback. So lots of different things that happen there. That's another switch variation right there from the Mississippi State game, where Mark Webb is in the star position and is just has a hard time with the slot guy there. Really nice pass, right in stride. But that was kind of the weakness of the Georgia defense right there last year was these slot guys working outside the hashes. Halfback wheel route, sure you remember that from the Florida game. Florida really ate Georgia's lunch on it. That's Jermaine Johnson in coverage there. He is no longer with us. He's at Florida State now. But, man, just gratuitous there. 3 replays in a row. That's hard to watch. I think we have more wheel routes to show. Yep, here's another one coming off. Boom. Nice. Awesome.
All right, so now we got a
so yeah, we got a Clemson play in here, and here's Clemson running a similar kind of tight end wheel route, which we saw last year.
Yeah.
And then we've got Florida running a tight end wheel route. So you guys can probably put 2 and 2 together and see the pattern there. The good news is that Clemson does not have a Kyle Pitts, at least not to my knowledge. That's a tight end post.
Yeah, this is traumatic.
Yeah. That's, I don't know. That's not a tight end, but still kind of that switch variation into a post route.
Yeah.
And then I think we have a levels kind of concept coming up here, or maybe that was that. Oh yeah. And then these are just these little halfback checkdowns, which we're going to get into this pretty deep with how Clemson played under DJU, but there was a lot of balls thrown to ETN, and we're going to talk about a guy named Will Shipley, who's a true freshman playing in his first game, who I think may be that type of weapon for them. And then right there. So these are some good plays with Georgia defending these similar type of concepts.
Yeah, we can defend them. And I mean, again, we were highlighting the Alabama and the Floridas just to be fair. We get a lot of people pointing out in our YouTube comments that, oh, these were the, Notre Dame's worst games. So we're trying to show a little bit of where, the athletes that Clemson has are comparable certainly to those 2 squads. So, totally. but these players are good. These are just really good players against really good players. And that's kind of what we did want to show that, yes, this is not like they don't coach it. They don't know it's coming. It's just sometimes you get beat.
Yeah, 100%. Exactly. And I mean, in modern college football, when you go good on good, you're usually going to, good offense beats good defense in any sport, and that wasn't the case a decade ago in college football, but it is today. Some of these clips that you've seen, Georgia's guys aren't necessarily in bad position. It's not like they don't know what's going on, but if the throw is made perfectly, then what are you going to do? So these are some run plays in here, some zone runs by Florida. And, Josh, as you mentioned, like that's the bread and butter of SEC offenses and modern offenses are these inside zones and zone counters and zone power. And Georgia's done a really good job with that stuff under Kirby Smart.
Yeah, and, to what we've talked about is, that front 7 is returning. Our secondary is going to be even more new faces now. But, these guys were stopping these runs, and, they were, Najee Harris was, contained for the first good part of that game. Certainly, Florida didn't beat us up on the ground. So these guys are coming back. So it's going to be a strength of the Georgia defense is up front.
Yeah, 100%. And so far we haven't seen any injuries there. Knock on wood.
Right.
And I do think, like, regardless of, what's going on with some of these guys on offense and with Tyke Smith and all that, like, there's a scenario in this Clemson game where Georgia's defensive line is just so dominant and overpowering that it just kind of wrecks everything. Much like you saw in the Super Bowl with Tampa Bay and Kansas City. Kansas City had the better quarterback. They had the better skill talent. But when Patrick Mahomes is running for his life all night, it changes everything. So, yeah. And Where are we in here? Are these some slants or what are we looking
Yeah,
at?
I think these are some slants here. Or some
more
no,
runs.
these are the more of the runs we got.
Can we skip to slants? There we go.
Let's hope. Let's hope. We're having some technical difficulties here on Dogsport. Yeah, there's our slant.
Yeah.
Look, there it is.
So, yeah, and Clemson threw a lot of slants last year with DJ. And so we just kind of wanted to preface some of the stuff we're going to talk about with Clemson to show you that it appears Georgia can defend some slants against high-level competition. Here you see the RPO action from Florida. Good coverage there by Stokes. Working on that outside receiver.
Yeah, we're about to have some Clemson plays here. If you want to jump to those Clemson slants.
Yeah, let's go ahead and jump to – yeah, that's it right here. All right, so Clemson versus Boston College. DJU's first start, trying to get him some easy throws over the middle, one-on-one coverage. Just let his guy work inside and be faster than the guy defending him. There you got the same guy. I believe that's Cornell Powell, who was a pretty productive kind of possession receiver for Clemson last year. Not one of the names that you've heard a ton on that offense, but a very good player. And as you can see, really good with kind of some of that route running in tight space and catching the ball away from his body. All right, so let's pause here for a second.
Okay.
We are kind of going to get into the full Clemson breakdown here. Okay, so with DJU, what you have is a massive arm and a guy who is very, very accurate, especially when you give him time and let him stand in the back of the pocket. That's Cornell Powell again against Notre Dame. You can see it there. It's a pretty effortless flick of the wrist from him, and that ball is traveling about 50, 55 yards in the air, and it's on the money. So he will stretch a defense. Let's slow down and stop on the plays for a second. So I think, a couple things to know about DJ. First off is he takes care of the ball. 0 turnover-worthy plays in 2020, according to PFF, which is pretty remarkable for a guy making his first 2 starts. Part of the way, though, that happened is that Clemson was really smart about the plays that they fed him and what they asked him to do against Boston College and Notre Dame. And, especially against Notre Dame, you saw them get him into the game early, get him comfortable on the road, first road game. Like short throws, simple reads. If the coverage sagged off on receivers, then they would run those quick slants and take advantage of the space available. If you want to play that slant that we were looking at right there, like just boom, you got a 3rd and 7, throw it short of the defense, let the athlete make the play. Don't ask him to throw the ball, between linebackers and safeties, just easy, rudimentary, elementary stuff. And then, sets them up for a 4th and inches type situation. So in terms of halfback screens was a huge part of that game plan. And at the time they had ETN. Now, I think it's going to be kind of a running back by committee. They got a kid named Will Shipley, who's a true freshman. And, we think could be that guy that's kind of their version of a James Cook. But as you can see there, like, a lot of these completions are short, easy throws behind the line of scrimmage and just, getting the ball to guys in space and letting them work. Let's slow down here. So with Shipley, you've got a guy that's, 5'11", 200 pounds, not an extremely crazy 40 guy, but very elusive, good agility. I think he was the number 2 running back in the country last year. Yeah, 5-star kid coming out of North Carolina. Weddington and Matthews is not far from Charlotte, so this will be kind of a homecoming game for him in his first ever college appearance. Watch out for him because when he's on the field, he's dangerous, and they're going to try and get him the ball with those little swing passes and stuff like that. But I think the difference between what Clemson did against Notre Dame and especially against Boston College and what they can do against Georgia is just that Georgia has as good or better athletes than Clemson at every position on the field. And Clemson's week-by-week scheme in the ACC is kind of based on the simple truth of their athletes are better than your athletes. And when it comes down to it, if we get our guys in a one-on-one matchup, they're going to make the defender miss, the majority of the time. And they're going to create explosives. And so I don't think they can throw screens and slants all day and count on speed and athleticism to just create space and miss tackles against Georgia. I think that Georgia will, be able to defend that, first of all, but second of all, like, they're going to force DJ to make some difficult throws. And if he can make those throws and beat Georgia, then hats off to him. But they're not going to sag off and give him, 10 yards, 15 yards on zone coverages on third down and just let him throw the ball underneath. So,
I mean, he's got some experience. He played in 2 big games, one home and one road game at a hostile stadium. But he's not, Mac Jones got polished real fast. And I mean, in some ways he's coming in, with that same sort of, track record as Mac, who came in late in the year to replace Tua. But I just don't think that he's going to have the accuracy and that Mac and that Trask had. And I think, but he's also going to have some speed, coming out of the pocket and stuff. But I think you're right. I think the one-on-one matchups Georgia is, they don't face a lot of Georgias on their schedule, and it's kind of exciting to have our guys, and they're going to be ready to play.
Yeah. Do you want to run some of those wide receiver screens? Because I want to talk about Amari Rodgers, who is now in the NFL. But last year they used him on these screens and kind of option routes, so there's little out routes there. And I mean, like, just an extremely elusive player. Boom, that's a guy getting 20, 30 yards after the catch, making 3-4 guys miss. And the question that I have, is, do they have that speed guy this year on that team? And when you go up and down their wide receiver roster, you see a lot of 6'3", 6'4", 6'2", bigger guys, which they scare you in a different way. They scare you on 50-50 balls down the field. But, I don't know that they have a guy that's really natural running those kind of plays where he's, cutting in between 2 defenders and shrugging off a bunch of guys and making a bunch of yards after contact. I feel like they have a lot of George Pickens type guys on their team. So you'll see here, they'll roll him out to create better angles. Like they did that a lot against Notre Dame and Boston College, but it's smart with a young quarterback. Just make him read half the field, create, short little throws, create stuff he's comfortable with where he can just throw a dart and not have to float the ball over a defender's head in zone coverage or anything like that. They're also going to run him at times. And I don't know if that's particularly wise against UGA, but you kind of have to do it just because it does create one more thing to defend. And, that base defense for Georgia here, let's slow down there a little bit. Sorry. That base defense for Georgia, though, does include a spy. We talked about that on our show when we had Sarah on, and we talked about Georgia's mid front. But the Georgia is basically always in a coverage that they call odd mirror 5, where one of their linebackers is directly responsible for the quarterback. And if he sees a free lane, he can rush the quarterback, but really, his job is to make sure that quarterback cannot gut them out up the middle. And guys like Nakobe Dean, guys like Quay Walker, I trust them to meet DJ at the corner. I don't think he's just going to burn them to the edge and take off, down the sideline for 60 yards. I don't think he's fast, but I just don't think he's that fast. I think he can do that against a lot of teams. I don't think he can do that against Georgia. But if you want to keep running those plays, another thing we'll see with him is he can extend plays with his legs and make accurate throws on the run. And I honestly think he's more comfortable throwing on the run and on the move and on those rollouts than he is when he's forced to stand in the pocket. His delivery looks more fluid. Yeah. So, I mean, I think, you know, a lot of their explosives come from missed tackles, and I just don't know if they can count on that against UGA. But their run game against Notre Dame, Andy was not very productive, even with Travis Etienne, the ACC's all-time leading, touchdown guy at running back. Like that D line for Notre Dame pushed them around a lot of the night, and we saw Ohio State kind of do the same things to them. If Notre Dame's D line can do that to Clemson, I can promise you that Georgia can.
I want to if you give me a second, because I want to pause it for a second, because I wanted to talk to you about jump in here, because I was listening to the Purple Theory podcast and they were breaking down Oklahoma and they talked about Spencer Rattler as a freshman and similar game in terms of a very strong arm, very athletic, and a lot of times he would move the pocket and force plays. Georgia's defense can maybe even use that his the ability for him to roll out of that pocket and possibly get him out of his place and force some throws, having the experience that maybe a veteran quarterback has. So I like that. I do think that Georgia can contain those. Those were awesome points you brought up, and a guy thrown on the run is I think where Georgia wants to put him in stress situations like that.
Yeah, I agree, and I mean, it's interesting, because there is part of me that wonders, is it a little safer to keep him in the pocket, truthfully? Can they set that edge and come around and, sort of force him? If he's going to run, I think ideally, if you're Georgia, based on the scheme that they play, you want to see him run up the middle towards that spy. But I think that if you can get pressure on him and move him off his spot, you're going to take that every time. There was some plays against Notre Dame in Boston College where he does kind of roll back and throw off his back foot and throw these fadeaways. And I don't think that he can do that against Georgia's athletes. What they have in the secondary is different. And I think, that they might make him pay for it. But that play against BC, it's like, that's a great play by Clemson, but good luck getting those type of double teams on Georgia's defense, because you're not going to do that against Wyatt Davis, Jalen Carter, Trevon Walker, all these freak shows, Zion Logue. So here is kind of some more of him, like RPO type stuff. If you'll rewind that one real quick, it's an interesting type concept. Like it's basically that old Tebow style where they fake the quarterback power and throw it. And it just adds an element that's difficult to defend. But one thing is he will take some bad sacks like that. He's dropping back 15, 20 yards, staying in the pocket, not getting out of the pocket and throwing the ball away there against a BC front that, just to be frank, is nothing close to what Georgia has. So he did the same thing against Notre Dame. I think the next clip is another, just kind of bad sack there. Bad situation to take a sack, 1st and 10, second overtime.
Yeah, this is the end of the game here. Yeah, this is where you had to make a play and everybody knew what you were doing, and Notre Dame got home and shut them down.
Yeah, totally. So I mean, when you look at kind of what they did, as a whole in that Notre Dame game with DJ, he was 21 for 23 on the season in his 2 starts. He was 21 for 23 passing behind the line of scrimmage. So, I mean, that's 23 screen passes in 2 games. That's a ton of screens. And then in terms of balls thrown between the numbers, less than 10 yards past the line of scrimmage, he's 25 for 30 for 243 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he's doing, like, when you look at his passing chart, and don't get me wrong, I'm not comparing the two at all, but like, it's kind of similar to what we saw with Stetson Bennett over his first few starts at Georgia, where Georgia was just creating easy throws for him. And then when somebody took those away, problems happened. And DJ has the ability to, he's 3 for 4 for 146 yards and a touchdown on throws between the hash that are more than 20 yards downfield. But just like, really the majority of the work that he did was between the numbers, and it's clear that he's really comfortable like throwing those slants and in routes and stuff like that. And so I do expect Georgia to to be able to keep inside leverage on Clemson's wide receivers and tight ends and force DJ to make some of those longer throws outside the hashes towards the sideline. And he's got the ability to do it. But, there's times where good Lord, man, this kid's going to be the number 1 overall draft pick and he's insane. And there's other times where he makes throws that are kind of behind the guy and they're not very accurate and he doesn't look comfortable and his footwork is loose and bad. Again, he was making his first 2 starts, but I think we as a college football watching kind of society, like we've gotten to know his name so well because he was a mega recruit. He just signed, the Fansville NIL deal with Dr. Pepper to be on their commercials all season. He is a Heisman hopeful. There's all that good stuff going for him, and he has an incredible future. But he's also making his 3rd ever start. This is going to be the first time he's ever played against a team that's, got a defense the caliber of Georgia's. I'm including in Ohio State. Well, he didn't play Ohio State, but this is going to be the first time he's played a team that has a defense anywhere close to Georgia. But more importantly, this is going to be the first time he's ever played in a full stadium. So it's like I do think that Georgia can get him off of his rocker a little bit, make him uncomfortable. In both those games that he started in, first against Notre Dame and second, or first against Boston College and second against Notre Dame, like Clemson got down big in the first half. They got down 28-10 to BC. They got down, I think, 16 points or so to Notre Dame. And they were able to come back in both those games, and one they won, the other they lost in double overtime. But if you're Clemson, I don't think you can count on coming back from a 3-possession deficit against this Georgia defense in the second half. Like that's not the position you want to be in.
No, I mean that game in Boston College was impressive. I mean, it really was to be thrown into that spot under a stressful year anyways. But there's no doubt he's impressive, and as tough it is, we're going to be banged up on the offense and defense side of the ball. I kind of like I wouldn't want to play him in November.
No,
I would. Well, it's not that I wouldn't want to play. I would prefer to get him first and then in November and have 6 or 7 starts under his belt because I think he's going to be he's going to rack up some numbers, especially in the ACC. If I can be blunt.
No, he is for sure, and he's going to get confident. But it's just like what. Even with Tyke Smith not playing in this game, just from an athlete standpoint, Georgia has the same athletes that Clemson does, and at certain positions they have the better athletes. And so I think that Clemson is going to have to be more creative than they normally are in terms of how they scheme up on offense. Like there's not going to be – they can't throw for 250 yards of slants in this game. You know what I'm saying? Like they can't run vanilla shit and just tear up Georgia with – speed routes and little in routes and guys making 6 guys miss on the same play. Like that's not going to happen. So, and I think honestly the biggest advantage that Georgia has in this game is that Georgia is a very good tackling football team, and they have been for years. 2 years ago, they had the lowest missed tackle rate in the entire FBS by a large margin with that 2019 defense. There's some new faces in the secondary, but we know that Christopher Smith and Lewis Seen are going to clean everything up at safety in terms of, guys that are trying to get yards after the catch. So I think if you're a Georgia fan, you have to feel pretty good about how they match up against Clemson's offense.
Yeah, awesome breakdown. And, we've seen a lot of plays. It was great to have 2 games of DJ to break down and look at. I mean, it's going to be a challenge, and that's why this is the best game of the early season and arguably one of the best games of the regular season overall. So with that, you've got stuff to do. You want to I'll let you go and begin your weekend celebration. For those of you who don't know, we're going to have a Mrs. Dog Out West here soon as Brooke and Graham are getting hitched this weekend. So early congratulations. We'll be thinking about you.
Thank you.
And so don't be breaking any news on Saturday.
Yeah, guys, I'll be back on Wednesday. So give me a rest. Nobody get injured. Hopefully, please put JT Daniels and all his friends in bubble wrap for not just the next week, but maybe the next 3 weeks. Let's just get to Clemson and go down there healthy. But Yeah, I think, thank you for getting all this stuff organized and getting all these plays in order and getting all, keeping our play vault updated. And yeah, just
Yeah,
appreciate all your hard work. And I will
we're
see
good.
you in a few days, man.
All right, dogs.